So this video, I'm going to show you the differences between Psyllium Husks and Psyllium Powder. Now, I've been receiving comments here such as, why is my bread heavy, dense, wet, and sticky? Or why is my bread hollow on top and dense at the bottom? Or why did my bread not rise? And even why did my bread turn purple? So these are some of the common problems faced with keto bread, and using too much Psyllium Husks is one of the main causes. Now, I discovered that quite a lot of people are using Psyllium Powder as obviously it's more convenient, but there seems to be a lack of understanding about the differences between Psyllium Husks and powder, which is actually huge. Now, most keto bread recipes provides measurement for Psyllium Husks based on self-ground husks, even though it may be stated as just ground Psyllium Husks, but it actually means that it's a whole husk that we grind it ourselves until half its original volume. So if a recipe calls for a 26 gram or 3 tablespoons of self-ground Psyllium Husks, and you use the exact measurement with Psyllium Powder, then the bread is going to turn out super dense, super wet and sticky, and the bread may fail and not rise properly also. Now, I have been using self-ground Psyllium Husks all along because it is more suited for baking. But until recently, I started to experiment with Psyllium Powder because I wanted to provide a correct measurement so that you will have more success with your keto bread. Now, thanks to one of my subscribers here who gave me a feedback that she had to reduce the Psyllium Powder until 1 teaspoon with the same amount of water, then only the bread turned out fine. So that really helped me with my own experiments. But the dough may be soft. You may find the dough to be soft, but that's fine because you can actually pour it into the loaf pan. But if you are making keto buns that needs to be shaped, then you may need to add more than 1 teaspoon to get a slightly firmer dough. So I would suggest that you work backwards by adding 1 teaspoon of Psyllium Powder with the same amount of water in the recipe, and gradually add a tiny bit more of the powder until the dough is just firm enough for shaping. So please be aware, do not add too much because it will end up to be very dense. Okay, now just get it, the consistency should be just slightly firm enough to shape the buns. Now, so what is Psyllium Husks, you may ask? It's actually a plant-based natural fiber. It acts exactly like the way gluten does, as glue. Hence, it is a binding agent that holds everything together and provides elasticity to shape the dough. It also makes the bread more bread-like. So without it, the bread will be crumbly with cake-like texture. So for those of you who ask, can I omit the Psyllium Husks? The answer is you can't, because then it will be like a cake texture and it will be crumbly. Now, certain Psyllium Husks may turn purple without affecting the taste. So if you experience this, you just need to change to another brand and then stick to the same brand if you find that it's good. Okay, now if you're wondering why we add hot or boiling water for keto bread using Psyllium Husks, it's actually to activate its glue properties. And as a result, the dough will bulk up. So this is one of the 2 brands that I use. The Psyllium Husks is from India, and that's why in some countries you can get it from some Indian shops as well. So depending on the country, the brands may differ, even the packaging. Now, this is the texture. It's quite coarse. That's why we need to grind it until half its original volume before baking. And this is the Psyllium Husks powder I got online just for experimenting. And I'll show you the texture. It is actually very super fine and super concentrated. That's why a very small amount is needed. Otherwise, the bread will be very dense, wet, and sticky. So see, the texture is very fine. I don't think we can grind it ourselves. Now I'm going to show you how to grind the psyllium husk into half its original volume. So we're putting the husk from one bowl in the multi grinder. And that's it, it's done. So look at the volume, it's already half its original volume. The texture is still slightly coarse, but it is just right. It is able to absorb the water more effectively. So if you see the difference after grinding, it is half the original volume. The texture is still slightly coarse, but it is just right to absorb the water. So just store it in a container. I grind the husk by bulk, and I just put it in containers and leave it in the fridge, so it's very convenient to use anytime. Now I have been using this mini coffee bean grinder for my grinding. It works as well. It can be a bit small, but you just need to grind it a few more times, and it's very inexpensive. You can also use a spice grinder, or if you have a very powerful blender, then you can use that too. So we're going to grind this into half its volume. So as you can see, it's already half its volume, so it's ready. The texture is just the same as the ones using the multi grinder. So I'm going to show you how the bread looks for both versions. This one uses the self-ground psyllium husk. It's about 26 grams. And on the left is using 1 teaspoon of psyllium powder, both with the same amount of water. As you can see, the dough is almost the same. And this is after baking. Both bread looks almost the same size. So I'm slicing one of the loaf. This is the one with self-ground psyllium husk, just to show you the texture. The texture is firm and dry and reasonably soft. And this is the one using the psyllium powder. It feels a bit wet and sticky, but it's still soft and a bit crumbly. But when toasted, both of them are the same. They are reasonably crispy and they taste good. So I've shown you the pros and cons. It's up to you to decide which one to use. But I would still prefer the Psyllium Husks that is self-ground, which works much better. The Psyllium powder may be more convenient, but there are more cons to it. Thank you for watching.